Peter, and welcome to the Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Samueli, and with me today, of course, is co-founder of the Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, and it is time for our Monday morning is the East Coast of the United States, live stream. Here it's already late afternoon, sun already set, but in the East Coast of the United States, it's early morning, and there's a lot going on. There's a financial meltdown, possible war in the Middle East, and then we have riots roiling the United Kingdom. And that's just, at 10 in the morning. I mean, it was still a lot to go till the end of the day.
And Kamala Harris hasn't spoken yet today.
And Kamala Harris hasn't spoken yet. But she's a formidable candidate. I don't know, Peter. I mean, in terms of the financial meltdown, it's you never really know what's behind this. I mean, my non-expert opinion is that the markets are beginning to realize that Harris will be president, and I think they're panicking. I think they weren't really expecting that up until just a few days ago. They were assuming Trump will be president, and Trump will pursue a pro-business policy as he did in his first term. And I think that that's why the markets have been doing quite well. And I think now. I think they're now coming to terms with the fact that there could well be a Harris presidency, and who the hell knows what that will entail.
That might be true. I hadn't thought about it that way, actually. First of all, the markets are way overvalued, okay? This whole AI mania is turning out to be very premature, okay? All of these, these IA fear-mongering articles out there. Well, it may come to pass, everyone, but it's not going to be later this afternoon. Okay, that's another thing. No, I think the war jitters are very real. But Apple and I went out for a nice lunch today, and I was thinking about reading the articles on my phone, as I do. And I was like, well, who cares? Okay, it's rich people losing money. Okay,
That's true.
I'm not particularly upset about it. Okay, right. I mean, most financials in the world, primarily in the West, it's basically legalized gambling, it's speculation, and all of this. And people buy on. They used to buy on rumors and sell on facts, and now what it is, it's all stories. Everybody tells stories about themselves. Right. Okay? So, and plus, for the average person, and this goes all the way back to the 1980s, what happens in the stock market? Well, who cares? Okay? It's so disconnected, and it's a club, and you ain't invited. Okay.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think even, they talk about this Black Monday, the famous Black Monday in 1987, I think October the 19th or whatever it was. So what? I mean, it's like after the Monday, within
I walked the dogs the next day.
Exactly. We're back to normal. So it didn't really amount to much other than it was a huge amount of value wiped off the books. But it's, again, as you said, it's rich people's value. This is what they thought they were worth. Hey, I'm worth $2 billion, and suddenly they find, hey, I'm only worth $1 billion.
Yeah, but that's a spreadsheet. That's not real value. Yeah. Okay. That's actually one of the big problems that we're facing right now, and it's something that you and I talk about almost directly or indirectly every time we meet. Okay, is that there is a created reality out there. That there's some people that can, through one way or another, increase their value, but and in a way it debases the rest of us. Okay, so it's neither here nor there. Now, I mean, if the Straits of the Hormuz were closed, well, yes, and there is something going on there. Right. Okay, that affects the real economy, but. These sell-offs and whatnot, and then just think of this. I mean, we just need a rate cut, okay, and all And what about the price of eggs?
Right.
What about me?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
The entire
quite
financial
agree.
system is, you know, in the European Union, in the United States, all G7, okay, it's lobbyists that write all these laws. And they're protecting their wealth and enhancing their wealth. They're not even thinking about the welfare of the nation state anymore.
No. I agree. I agree. And these, this thing about what causes these irrational sell-offs, or the other way around, markets just booming and booming and booming. They're not really based on any realistic outlook. So that's why if you read the media accounts today, they're all talking about all the fears of recession, and then you think, well, when isn't there a fear of recession? I mean, it's built in to the economy that there's always a fear of a recession. Otherwise,
George,
economic activity is going to slow down.
Well, I got news for the pages of the Financial Times. The rest of us have been living a perpetual recession. Okay,
right? Exactly.
We're always in recession.
Exactly.
How many middle-class people can save money, George? How many?
Right.
We're talking, single-digit percent. Okay.
Yes.
All of this print spread about lost value and markets are crashing and all of that. Well,
Right.
I'm still gonna have a line tonight.
That's right. That's why I simply speculated as to what's maybe behind it. But again, it doesn't really matter very much, because what does it matter if people suddenly think, hey, we're going to have a Harris presidency? Because that's not going to happen for a long time. But this is the kind of thing, the rumors spread, and there's a lot of hysteria in these financial betting houses. And one person said, oh, we're going to have Harris, and suddenly everyone becomes convinced we're going to have Harris. What the hell are we going to do?
Well, that may play into it, but nobody wants to be left caught holding the bag. Okay. And like Warren Buffett, I mean, big story over the last few days, like I make it the number, like $500 million in Apple stock, well, maybe he knows something, and, he's a very rich man. That's how he makes money. He speculates. He doesn't make anything, anybody.
No.
He doesn't make any. He may own nothing. Things. But that he's not involved. He's called a financial investor. Okay. He's not involved. He just looks at the spreadsheet, what is the profit loss? It's like, well, we got to fire the management and find somebody else to run the company. Okay.
Right.
And he's not going to say, I think you have to worry on your inputs, and I think we have a tariff coming up. No, he didn't do that. He just looks at the bottom line. Do I have good management there or not? Fire him. Okay. Get him out. Get somebody else in there. Okay. Now, why did he sell those stocks? Well, maybe it's a lot more complex. Maybe he knows that, if he thinks it's overvalued, he sells it, knowing it's overvalued. He dumps it, it goes down, and then he goes right back in and buys it.
Yes. That's you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. That's what you do. You're overvalued. You dump it. Everybody else dumps it. The value collapses. And then buy it back at ridiculous bargain basement rates, and then lo and behold, he's going to make a lot of money on that, because of course the value is going to go up. That's how.
There's plenty of people, because these are publicly traded. These are publicly exchanges are what they do is publicly known. You can know when somebody buys or sells something. At least you should, anyway. That's why we all follow Nancy Pelosi. But I mean, there are plenty of financial institutions to just watch what Warren Buffett does. Well, he sold 25%. We sell 25%. I mean, that is the sole job of some of these financial institutions. They got one guy, somebody hires him. You sit in the office, look at the computer, and you just mirror everything he does. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's right. I remember there was a show on CNBC. It may still be on, where I think this woman was always interviewing the Sage of Omaha, and that was just the entirety of the show. And I don't know whether it was once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever, but she would interview him, and with this awe, this he's a sage, and so if he speaks, this is what you need to do with your money. I mean, if that's what Warren Buffett is doing, then you need to do the same. And that was it. That was the entirety of the show. So we have that, and then we have in the UK we have Keir Starmer, who is promising these ferocious.
If he was the stock, sell it. Go. Sorry.
Yes, that's right. These ferocious crackdowns, along with his Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper. They had this big meeting with police chiefs today, and they are really absolutely determined to extirpate any free speech or within the UK. I think that Starmer always intended to do this. I think he gave due warning even during the election, when everyone already knew he would win the election, that this is what he intended to do. I think it comes naturally to somebody like Starmer to eliminate free speech. I mean, to eliminate anyone who criticizes him, and because you deem it as dangerous. It's dangerous. It causes civil strife. It causes violence. So we need to crack down on online speech. And I think that's where they're heading. I think they're going to really do a massive crackdown on online speech.
Well, but what they'll do is the crackdown on the online speech will create violence. Okay, eventually.
But this has been the modus operandi of the UK elites really for decades. It's really pretty much since the 1960s, when the immigration issue first became debated, which is you just stamp it out. You absolutely, you just crush it. Anyone who brings it up, you just call it a racist, a fascist, and then you just keep suppressing it. And then, of course, occasionally it keeps bursting into public view, and then you would do the same thing. You would again just crush it, and then always just continue with the same policy.
Well, yeah, our good friend George Galloway. I've met his wife, a wonderful, beautiful woman, and he is very hard on immigration, but his wife is a woman of color, and he has biracial children. So George Galloway is a racist. That's one of the reasons why he's been able to talk with it. You can't slap that on him, okay? Yeah. But you're absolutely right. I mean, but it's on so many other issues too. I mean, the tax code in the UK, the voting process in the UK, it always favors the elites. Always, okay, by design.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And what they do when they're talking about this far right, everything is a far right. So Keir Starmer, he made that speech on. He made that news conference on August the 1st that we talked about yesterday, and then yesterday he made another one of his declarations. And then he keep talking about this far right. But you see, far right, they just refer to working class people. These are working class people who have been, inundated with immigrants. I mean, they're the ones, it's their neighborhoods that have had to endure this mass immigration. And many of them have had to move out of where they used to live. So there's, large parts of London that are just now completely, gone. I mean, they're completely just immigrant centers, things, where once, when I used to live in London, there used to be mostly kind of ordinary British people living there. Now they're just completely immigrants live there. So they're the ones who are objecting. So when Starmer and the rest and the British elite, the British media want to crack down, they're always cracking down, then it's these people. It's the working class who have really no power, who have had to endure this. They never made a decision. They never actually wanted this mass migration. They just simply had this dumped on them, knowing that the elites who live in these swanky parts of London, they don't really have to live with that. They have they live in, Kensington and Knightsbridge, Belgravia, Pimlico. They don't have immigrant problems there. Those are very expensive, salubrious area. The immigrants can't afford the housing there. But it's ordinary.
There's a lot of private security too.
Private security. but it's ordinary people, and they have to live with this. And then when they react, as has happened before in the past, boom, the state comes after them and says, boy, we're going to crack down. We're going to put you in prison, and we're going to lock you up. We're going to throw away the key, and maybe even more. If you're guilty of online race incitement, we're going to make life very, very unpleasant for you. And
well, it's interesting
either.
It's really interesting because remember back in I think it was kind of like the 70s, 80s things when we came out with these, what are they? These soccer thugs. What were they called? Soccer hooligans, right?
That's
yeah. But see, that was a way to attack the middle class also. But and now the far right encompasses the entire middle class.
Right.
The entire middle class
right.
are far right.
Right.
Okay,
That's
which is absurd. It's so totally absurd. Okay.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I mean, it's interesting when this all started happening, and I knew we were going to talk about it before and now. And I agree with you 100%. It's all about free speech. That's what this is about. The whole thing.
Yeah. That's right. That's right.
And plus, this new government has no hope of solving any of the problems. So why don't we go after free speech? Again,
that's it. Exactly.
Perfect.
That's right. Because really, that's really what the only thing that you can do, because obviously the government is unpopular, and will go on being unpopular. Well, so what can you do? You crack down on free speech, because free speech is really, really dangerous, because it might incite people. But of course, that's always been the excuse for police state tactics through history, because it's always, well, if you let people speak, it'll have dangerous consequences, antisocial consequences. I mean, that's why the church. Well, we can't have people, speaking and freely thinking, because it's dangerous. I mean, it's going to have dangerous consequences. So there's nothing new about that. But what's interesting, people like Keir Starmer, the sort of, if you call him the left or whatever, it's actually innate within them to crack down. I mean, that's what they're about. They're about repressing. They're about ending any kind of debate or so on. That's what comes naturally to Keir Starmer and the people around him.
We should just abandon this. See, they want us to frame it, labor, Tory, left, right, and all that. No, these are all establishmentarians. That's right. How I look at them. I don't see any real ideological difference between them now, because both we've done this. We've gone around. Okay, it's right. So it's how the establishment needs to maintain power, extend its power, and silence any kind of alternatives. Okay, it's good to talk about immigration. It's healthy to talk about it. Okay, if you want to maintain your nation state, you have to. If you don't talk about it, then you don't have borders.
That's right, and that's the point. It's never talked about. Because the goal of diversity and multiculturalism are obviously good in and of themselves, and anyone who objects to that is obviously a very bad person, a person who is very racist and intolerant, and that's how it has been done in decades. So, in bringing that up and say, well, the people of this country, they kind of want to maintain their country as it was. In other words, they want to basically leave to their children the country that was left to them by their parents. That's the one. So they look around and say, this is a completely different country. This isn't the country I was born into. But so that should be what people should be discussing on the issue of immigration, but they cannot do it, because then, of course, you're a racist. And then what's interesting is that the media are all in on this. Again, if you watch these news conferences, these Starmer news conferences, the only question they're asking is, well, are you doing enough to crack down on racist violence? I mean, it's entirely, they have the same framework, and it's one thing, remember, It used to be that, the liberals are onto the root causes of crime. This is the one issue that they're never looking at the root causes. It's like, no, that they're not interested in the root causes. This is just racist, far right scum. That's it. You're never interested in the root causes. Why are people so upset? Why is this spread throughout the country?
It's also very interesting because we made a joke about Kamala Harris at the very start, but it's very germane into this conversation. Is that we have these diversity? Look at the Joe Biden's cabinet diversity, okay, cultural and sexual and all of this, okay. And the UK does it, EU does it, but these people, these diversity people, I didn't say DEI, but I said diversity people.
Right.
They maintain the establishment's point of view.
Yeah.
I mean, you just get a neoliberalism with a Jamaican Indian flavor to it, okay?
Right.
I mean, that's not diversity. Diversity is of ideas and of debate.
Right. No, it's absolutely
right. But what they do is, they just put Lloyd Austin. Oh, that's we have diversity. No, he's representing the arms industry. I don't see any diversity there.
Exactly. No, it's just he's a black man who is representing the arms industry. It's there's no diversity at all there. It's just exactly the same figure, and it's something the political establishment is very keen on doing. Hey, they want to maintain the same dogmas, but hey, we've got different people. Look, we have a woman now, spouting that same dogma. Oh, we have a black man spouting it. Oh, better still, a black woman. Can we have a gay black woman? Yeah, it's a gay black woman spouting the same nonsense. So that's their idea of diversity, and it was very interesting when in that debate that Trump with this National Association of Black Journalists.
I actually saw parts of it. Now I'm glad you brought it up. I did see parts of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was not a good debate, to say the least. I think
But Trump he didn't win, but he certainly didn't lose either.
No.
The reaction of the crowd told them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He used some like arcane language, like black jobs, which he could have been a little bit more articulate.
Right.
I knew it. I knew what he meant. I mean,
exactly. But as you say, the thing about the crowd response was very interesting, because they didn't boo him. If they didn't like if they really objected to his answers, they would have booed. They would have
kind of chuckled at some of his comments.
Right. They chuckled. They were a little startled by some of the way he formulated things, because they're just not used to anyone formulating things in that way. But there was no booing. There were no objections or ways with the as you said, the black jobs. But I thought it was interesting about is it right to say that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire? And then he says, well, can you define DEI for me? I just said, well, it's diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. And I said, yeah, but can you define it? Well, I just defined it, but because she's so dumb that she didn't understand his question. The question wasn't, well, tell me what the acronym is. That's not the definition. What exactly do you mean a DEI hire? That's what it's saying. Anyone can just say, well, that's what the acronym stands for. But what does it actually mean if somebody's a DEI hire?
Yeah, it's like saying, what is the CIA stand for?
Yeah, that's what exactly. What is the CIA? What is the Central Intelligence Agency?
He should have said that. He should have said that. Or FBI. Oh,
well, that's a very good point. Exactly. If you ask, well, what is the CIA? Well, CIA is the Central. Well, that doesn't tell me anything. What exactly is the CIA?
Well, was Kamala Harris a DEI hire? Yes, she was. Obviously, look at the White House website. Okay, yeah. She was chosen because she checked boxes. Checking boxes, my words, but in essence, that she fulfilled the profile that they were looking for. Of course, she was.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And the people asking the questions on that panel should be happy about it, but no, it's inverted. I mean, right. Before they got on the stage, they were all DEI, and then when Trump says, well, she's a DEI hire. Oh, how dare you? That's racist.
That's right. That's right.
The whole idea of DEI is racist.
That's right, and that's the bizarre aspect of it, because they declare that DEI is a good thing. We should pursue DEI. We should pursue diversity, equity, and inclusiveness. But when you say, okay, great, so Kamala Harris was hired as in the with the goal of diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, how dare you suggest anything such thing? It's so ridiculous, because I thought it was a good thing. I mean, I thought the whole point was that you go out of your way to hire minorities. No, but apparently no, of course not. She got this job on merit, which is kind of strange when given that Biden had actually promised that he would hire a black woman to be his vice president. That was very odd. He didn't just say, hey, I'm going to hire the best man or woman for the job. That's precisely not what he said. And so now
the same thing.
It was a DEI hire.
He said the same thing about the Supreme Court, and he did.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
He did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Don't say don't make the claim that we need DEI, the acronym, and then when it happens, you say, well, if you question it, then that's racism. Well, no, the very premise of DEI is racism. You hire on race.
That's right. Exactly.
And you know what? It gives a stigma too. Oh, you got the job because you're gay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, fine. What is that? That's the soft. That's the term. It's a soft bigotry. Okay, I mean, we're going to give you the job anyway. Because of your external characteristics. Okay.
Right.
Well, that's really demeaning.
Well, but that's the thing, and that's why this deep dishonesty about this, because especially, well, affirmative action. The government is committed to affirmative action, has been ever since the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and that's a good thing. Affirmative action. But if you say, well, I think this was an affirmative action hire, how dare you suggest it? Well, I thought affirmative action is a good thing. I thought you want to pursue affirmative action, but apparently, if this person was hired through affirmative action, that's a grievous insult. Well, you got to make up your mind. I mean, you want affirmative action or don't you want affirmative action?
Yeah, but the 64 legislation is that you can't discriminate against a person with equal level.
But it went beyond that. They did introduce affirmative action.
Yes, and that's when it went the wrong direction. When you're saying you can't discriminate against someone because of their color. I mean, if they have merit and they measure up to the job description, then there's no reason not to hire them. Okay.
That's right. But
they've gone way beyond that.
That's right. But that was implicit. This ambiguity was implicit within the 1964 Act, because they said, well, affirmative action means not quotas. Heaven forbid quotas. What it means is that governments. Initially governments, that it meant corporations, would go out of their way to hire minorities. Not that they would hire a minority not on merit, but that they would make an extra effort to hire a minority. But of course, the moment you spell this out, everyone knew exactly what it meant. You basically quotas. You want to make sure you're not going to be sued in courts that you haven't hired enough minorities, so you hire a minority, whether the minority merits the job or not, and that's what he meant. But they try to dress it up as, well, no, it's still merit. It's just that you have to go out of your way to make sure that you hire a minority. You really have to look very, very carefully. You got to really go out of your way to look at the minority.
The soft bigotry of low expectations. That's the phrase I want. The soft bigotry.
Yeah, no, I that's exactly what it's got to. But there it is, and that's where you've got the situation where if you say, well, I think this is an affirmative action hire, that's a terrible insult. Well, that's so shocking. That's what a horrendous. That's a racist thing to say. And, you're a racist to say that. But then you say, but I thought it was a good thing. I thought we're all supposed to be committed. If I were to say I want to end affirmative action, I would be deemed a racist. So,
It's really interesting, because the first time we mentioned this a few days ago, you mentioned it, and I had told you I hadn't watched it, but I had read about Trump's encounter, and after seeing it again, the way it was reported was radically deficient from what actually happened.
Right.
I watched it and I went, oh, a couple of times, like, oh, I just say that, but the crowd knew what he meant. Okay. I mean,
exactly.
Trump's he's 77, 78?
He's 78. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. All right. Okay. It's kind of reminds me when I with my father. When I was born, my father was 40, and the kind of language he would use in like the
Right.
1980s. I think that's it, Dad. You said that before the Second World War. You don't talk that way anymore. You don't say
Right.
that.
Right.
And you know, and for him, it wasn't mean spirited.
Right.
It wasn't intended to hurt. Okay,
Right.
you just don't say those kind. No, she's an
Right.
Oriental.
Right.
Okay, you know, she's an Oriental. I said we don't like Asian. Just, you know, okay.
That's right. But that's what when he said the black jobs, and he said, well, he obviously also meant in his own business, he hired blacks in his hotels and casinos. Um, and again, you know, the crowd knew what he meant. And incidentally, there was some CNN reporter, and I saw this on Twitter today. Some CNN reporter went to a black barber shop, and he asked, "Is Kamala Harris black?" And they all kind of said, "Well, I don't know. I'm not sure she is." You know, they say, "I don't know. I heard she's half black, half Asian." They were kind of with Trump. You know, I don't know. You know, I don't know whether I'd call her black. So again, it's only white people who get very, particularly white liberals, who get very outraged by what Trump said. And what he meant, I mean, you know, as always with Trump, he doesn't formulate things in the most elegant way. But what he meant was she kind of caters to whatever the audience wants to hear. So
when she was elected, the AP called her Indian descent.
That's
okay?
right. That's right.
When she was elected to the Senate, yes.
Yeah,
she claimed to be of Indian descent.
That's right. She was an Indian.
Just going back to the black jobs. I mean, if I'd been on the panel, which of course I never would have been, but if I'd been on the panel and Trump said black jobs, I said, no, we're not talking about the CIA.
That's right. But what was also interesting about that was the attitude of that woman. I never watch ABC News.
I don't know who they are.
So I've never even heard of this woman, Rachel Scott. But what was interesting is that she really has not learned from the experience of previous reporters who tried to do to Trump exactly what she tried to do. Hey, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to knock him out. I'm going to, you know, have this whole litany of accusations against him. And
good luck, honey. Good luck.
Honey. Exactly. You know, Megyn Kelly tried that. That woman, Caitlin Collins, on CNN tried that. It doesn't work. You know, Trump is very good at, you know, he's a very good counterpuncher. And you do that with him, and this is where he excels. You know, ask him a policy question, he rambles and meanders all over the place. And that's where you can get him.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you try to say, well, you know, you're a racist and so that, you know, he just sweeps that aside. I mean, that's easy for him.
It's easy for him because of his entire life experience in New York.
No.
You lived in New York, George.
Yeah. Yeah.
You come across a lot of black people, a lot of Asian people, all kinds of people in New York. I mean, if he'd been, you know, spent all his life in Montana, that would be very different. Okay, right. But considering finance, real estate, entertainment. He's been around black people from day one, and I don't think it's water off the back of a duck for him. I just don't see it, and he's never said anything. I mean, you have Joe Biden calling black men "boy," and you know it doesn't ruffle feathers. If Trump had said it once, it'd be impeachment.
No, that's right, and I think that's a very good point. And he was very friendly with a lot of black leaders. He used to be friendly with Jesse Jackson. Well, I think was quite friendly with
Al Sharpton, even.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. He you know he knew how to get around New York, and knew these are powerful black leaders. You know, you got to be on good terms with them. And no one ever had accused him being a racist. It had never happened. So it was just so ridiculous. And so she came out with this, and then she completely flopped. and then Trump, I think, rightly said to her, this is, this isn't even a question. You're just sort of reading out a statement, and accusations. But it was just a mess. The whole show was just a mess. You had these three moderators who were kind of talking over each other, and then the microphones were not working, so he couldn't even hear what one of the moderators was saying. And then it was just arbitrarily brought to an end very, very early. Same with the Caitlin Collins. I think was also, it was suddenly brought to an end. Someone said, "No, bring this thing to an end." It was supposed to be an hour. It was only about 35 minutes.
The executives at CNN, cut it. I know what that's like. I know when someone's yelling in your ear. Okay, I know what that's like. Yeah, well, see, accusations in this case are confessions. Okay, I mean, Trump, I don't think he realized it, but his reactions short-circuited the illogic of what's supposed to be the logic of DEI. He dismantled it in his own weird Trumpian way. I wouldn't have done it that way. You wouldn't have done it that way. But he did it in his way. That's what is so. I always say that this is just a different category of person. He's not a politician, that's for sure. Okay, just a force of nature.
That's right. Anyway, we have questions here from our good friend Cynthia. Cynthia, thank you very much. Always appreciate your generosity. So Cynthia asks, as you may recall, Michelle Obama referred to Kamala as, quote, my girl, unquote. Then Beyonce also did the exact same thing to Simone Biles, calling her my girl. For the two women who claim to oppose sexism, they're being terribly sexist to refer to any woman as my girl. It's also terribly racist as well. For them to only refer to a fellow Black woman as my girls obviously implies that all non-Black women are too far beneath them to include in their highly exclusive girls club. Okay, what do you think of that, Peter? That's a very
well, I mean, this is something that George and I kind of grew up with, and it's very among some members of the Black community, using the N-word is perfectly fine. They even call each other that, okay? But given my complexion, I cannot use that word.
No.
I think that's okay. That's okay with me. I'm not going to, die on a hill for the N word. Okay. I mean, I find it. I never use it. I find it very offensive. Okay. I'm offended when other people use it. Okay, because it's a word that is used to intentionally hurt someone, and I don't think I don't like that. Okay, but I don't want that to be so elastic where I can't say, well, that person's overweight. You're fat. Okay, that's a statement of fact. Okay, you can say something like that. Oh, you're being insensitive. Well, no, but take a look. Okay, all right. So I'm not a purist in this area, but
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just when Trump has that classic thing when he's addressing his crowd, and he would say something like, "Stop calling Chris Christie fat. Don't call him fat. I would never call Chris Christie fat. Stop doing it. Don't do it." but go on. Sorry for that interruption.
How people look. I don't really care about that. I mean, on my program, I've been attacked for. I have a woman from Lebanon from time to time, and I say, "Sorry, dear, I need to interrupt." Why did you call her dear? Well, I like the word. She liked the word. So if then tune out. If you don't like the way I speak, I'm not forcing you to watch. Okay. But, this whole thing about being offended, just chill out a little bit, everybody. I look at mainstream media all day. I'm offended all day long. Okay. But I don't have a meltdown. Okay.
Right.
I just so. And I refuse to have other people police me. I'm not going to let you tell me what words I can say. That's proscribed speech. Now, the difference is proscribed speech is what you're supposed to say. I don't go there. Other speeches, it's probably, we have a general consensus that you probably shouldn't use that word. Yeah, I kind of agree. That's it. That's very different. Proscribed speech is that, I have to use your pronouns. Well, Sorry, I don't go there. Okay, maybe if I know you, I'm familiar with
Right.
you, and you were to say, Peter, could you refer to me as she, her? And I'd say, we work in the same office. I see, sure, if that's what I have no problem with that. Okay,
Right.
but I'm not going to, with prescribed speech, you're demanding that I live through your fantasy. I'm not going to do
Right.
that.
Right. I agree. It's still an odd way of speaking, like my girl. I mean, and I think Cynthia's point is that it suggests a little club. And it's somehow, you're part of a club. You're essentially you're black, and therefore, oh, you're my girl. Would Michelle Obama refer to Laura Bush as my girl? I don't think. I don't know. I don't think. I know they have very good relations now, the Obamas and the Bushes, but I don't know whether she would refer to her as my girl. It's so there is that the suggestion. Well, this is a kind of a little club, and they're referred to. But and again, no one would think it's acceptable to call Simone Biles as my girl, but again.
Well, I mean, let's take a look. Let's look like at the Victorian era in England, okay, and they were very obsessed with sexual mores, okay. Infidelity was something that was scorned and all that. But the elites did it all the time. The elites had all the fun they wanted, okay? And we see this on all of these aristocracies and all that in elites. But when it comes to working people, lower class, the lower caste, then they have to be policed and everything. And that's what I kind of look at this as, the rules don't apply to us. We're in a different stratosphere than you. Rules are made for you, but not me. I make the rules. You obey the rules.
Right. Yeah. No. I think that's I think that's that's right. So when Joe Biden, famously said to the sort of that black journalist that if you're not voting for Joe Biden, you ain't black. Biden evidently thought that this is acceptable, and it was accepted. I mean, no one really berated Biden for talking like that. But I remember Bill Maher. I think he in one of his shows he used the N word, and that caused a little bit of an issue. But his approach was, hey, I'm on your side. I'm a good guy. I'm one of the liberals. I'm one of the people who are on the who are virtuous. So I'm allowed to use it. So up until then, the norm was, as you said, well, blacks are allowed to use the N word, but whites certainly not. But so but it applies to me. I'm an honorary black person. I may be white, but I'm an honorary black person because I'm on the right side. So I'm allowed to use the N word, and that kind of some blacks really didn't like that he felt that he could do it. That awful guy Quentin Tarantino, which I just don't like him as a filmmaker, but he does that a lot in his movies. He a white person think, well, I'm this great guy, and so I'm allowed to use the N word.
Well, I like a lot of his movies. Okay, not all of them, but I like in toto. I like his films, but I hate when he's in his own films. He destroys everything. Did anybody see Four Rooms?
I don't think so.
Three rooms. The first three rooms were excellent. The fourth room destroyed the film because he was in it. Okay, and if you look at interviews with him, what an arrogant snot. He's just an awful human being. Okay, really. And apparently working with him is a nightmare. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, white liberals wanting to, I want to be with you. I don't want to be in your in-group. I just have no patience for that, George. For me, I'm just very old-fashioned. Merit. Okay, I want to be around the best people, the smartest people, the most creative people. That's all I care about. Okay, right. And I don't want special dispensations because I'm a woman. No, sorry. Not for me. Not for me. Call me what you want. It's okay.
All right. So now we have another question from 60 Cents. Now, 60 Cents is a friend of ours on Silicon Valley, which is, so it's pretty early in the morning for you. I mean, I know people in Silicon Valley get up early, but you know, thank you. You know, appreciate you.
They're dog people. They're dog people.
Yeah. But I remember when I spent time in Silicon Valley, it was, you know, people used to go to work at 6 in the morning. I mean, that was acceptable. That's when you show up for work at 6 o'clock. And so 60 Cents says, Dear George and Peter, following up on your excellent discussion last week on the color revolution attempt in Venezuela, it was that weirdo Zionist Alan Dershowitz suggesting Reza Pahlavi return to power in Iran during a debate with Glenn Greenwald about 4 months ago. When Glenn wiped the floor with Dershowitz, can Israel be de-recognized by the United Nations for being a rouge colonial center, kind of a rogue colonial settler entity? Okay, I mean, you want to start, and then I'll
well, I don't know if there is a mechanism for that. It's a very interesting question, and ever since October 7th, I think it's very interesting, sophisticated discussion, because before October 7th, you don't have a sophisticated discussion about Israel, because it's only downside, okay? But when a genocide is being committed in real time on our screens, we've been able, fortunately, to go beyond that. Now, the mantra has always been, Israel has the right to exist. Well, that's a ridiculous statement, and that's a trap. So don't go for it. But Israel has a right to exist. Well, it's neither here nor there. It does exist, okay? It does. It exists under international law. It is the outcome of decisions made at the United Nations. Okay. Now we've gotten to the point, and I'm answering the question in a different way. The question now before us: is it desirable that the state of Israel exists? That is where we are right now. How that goes? I mean, the obviously member states of the United Nations. The United Nations can't cancel Israel because the United Nations is a collective of all of its members, okay? But members of the United Nations can cut diplomatic relations, that's for sure. And considering the United States is, and it's sanctioning 1/3 of the countries in the world right now. 1/3 of all countries in the world are sanctioned by the United States in one form or another. Well, the United States and its Western allies have taught the world what sanctions are. So the world collectively could start enforcing very strict sanctions on Israel, which I think it should do, okay? I hope that answers the question. I don't know if there is a mechanism where you can kick a country out of the United Nations. I've never heard of it. Okay.
Well, I agree. I don't think it can be done. The one way of approaching it is that Israel was a creation of the United Nations. So that was it, basically, you know, Israel had to go through a process. You know, first of all, the United Nations put forward a partition plan, and then when that partition plan was basically came to nothing, then there was a real issue as to whether Israel would be allowed entry into the United Nations, and the decision was made that Israel would be permitted entry. However, there were conditions attached, and the conditions were a settlement of the refugee problem. At the time, it was just a refugee problem, but that was the condition, that Israel would have to settle the refugee problem. And then the issue of Jerusalem would have to be postponed for another day, and then Jerusalem would have to be under United Nations control because it's the center of the three of the world's religions. You can't just have Israel helping itself to Jerusalem, because after all, it's a holy city for Christians and Muslims as well. So given that, then you can at least raise the issue is that, well, Israel was invited to join the United Nations on certain conditions, and since it hasn't fulfill the conditions, then United Nations can throw it out. Now, it's not going to happen, so that's not, that's just simply a theoretical construct. The problem with the sanctions is that, given the size and scale of the United States economy, it's nothing. I mean, you impose sanctions on Israel, and it's just going to be nothing. I mean, because ultimately Israel will always be thoroughly integrated into
no, George.
economy, and then obviously into the European economy.
No, my point is that the United States and the European Union would have to be part of that sanction.
Right, exactly. That's right.
And it should be done. It absolutely needs to be done. And that is why, and George, this is again one of the most important themes that George and I talk about on this podcast, is that I wish these people would really stop talking about values. Okay, I mean, if you cannot object to genocide, then you have no values whatsoever, and you have no business spouting off like they do. I mean, this is just complete moral degradation we're watching. Okay, it just sometimes it's just beyond words. Okay, I mean, because of where I work, I see a lot of footage that a lot of social media won't even put on. Okay, because it's just so horrific. I mean, seeing a little girl, 4-year-old girl, with her jaw hanging. I mean, she in complete shock, and her face half of it's been blown off. You can't unsee those. You just can't unsee that kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
George already kind of said it. I mean, this is a theoretical exercise, unfortunately. Okay, but don't compromise your own values in what's important to you. And most importantly, don't be afraid to speak up. Okay, that's the trick they played on my generation. Oh, it's complicated. No, it's not complicated. It's actually quite simple. Oh, this is in time immemorial. No, that's not true. All of these pieties that we've been shoved down our throats for generations, they're all a pack of lies. And start saying it, because if you don't, you're complicit with it. That's how strongly I feel about it.
Right. Yeah. No, I think, but the truth is that most of the world's powers are pretty much, on reasonable terms with Israel. I mean, it's, they don't have too many problems with Israel. They complain about this or that and the other, but basically, they don't treat Israel as any kind of a pariah state, and that applies to the alternative. If there's a sort of an alternative global order involving Russia and China, the powers in Asia. Now that's different from the Middle East. They're the Middle Eastern states and their feelings about Israel. So it's hard to see how you can do very much about it. Yeah, as you say, you can certainly speak out about it, but it's still very much a minority of states that do feel very strongly about it. And you count on one fingers of one hand. You got South Africa, obviously feels very strongly. You got a few states in Latin America that feel very strongly, but it's a very, very much a tiny minority in the world.
Yeah, well, it's a small group of very powerful countries that will maintain its posture right now, but there's the vast majority of much weaker countries have a very different opinion, and this is what I mean. If look at the G7. I mean, it's the former colonial powers. Israel is a colonial settler project. Okay, that's how the global South looks at this. Okay, there they go again. These colonial powers, post-colonialism, neo-colonialism, whatever you want to call it, but it's the same people that are doing this. They spout out certain values, but they act in a different way. Okay, so
right, but at the same time, the thing. Okay, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, it's done. It's a deal. I mean, they made that famous United Nations resolution in 1975. The Zionism is racism. It was a General Assembly resolution, and it was on the books, I think, till sometime in the 1990s when it was gone. But there's been nothing comparable since then. So, South Africa obviously is one of the states that has that has a real deep animus towards Israel. Iran is among those, and so on. And you're right. I mean, you go to the states of Africa, and they're no fans of Israel. But the powers that have the huge economic and military muscle, they don't have any real point. And even Russia, Russia's not the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union did lead the opposition to Israel. That was they broke off diplomatic relations with Israel, and again didn't revive them until 1990, 1991, right towards the end of the Soviet Union. So they really, Soviet Union, put its muscle behind the kind of the anti-Israel.
Well, I mean,
there's nothing comparable like that today.
Speaking of muscle, I can't confirm it. I've seen it in a couple of places, but we'll wait to see. There are reports that the Russians are helping arm the Houthi. So
I saw those reports as well. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, we'll see whether that's true. Yeah. But I saw those reports.
My whole point here is I'm not naive. Okay, I agree with you completely. Okay, but it is important, that the mandarins of the universe say, what we're supposed to think and how to think about it. Okay. Well, no, I mean, if you can't live up to your own standards, then why should I respect you? That's all I'm trying to get at. Okay.
Right. No, I think that's right. Yeah. Yes. No, that's exactly right. I mean, I am kind of, curious why Russia and China have not taken a harder line on Israel. I have to think that in Russia there's a powerful Zionist lobby there as well. I mean, there are people who are influential and who are very strong supporters of Israel.
From my experience, it's not as overt, obviously.
No, I think that's right. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, people have asked me, how do Russians that, in my kind of casual sampling, how do people feel about it? And I say it's kind of 50-50. Okay. Kind of 50-50.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I haven't seen any comments from Kamala. I mean, so given that we're all
by design,
are we on the brink of war and all these fascinating issues? Where's Kamala on all of this? It's like, I mean, we talked about yesterday in our one of our podcasts, which is that Israel, according to the United States, Israel carried out these assassinations without consulting the United States. So the United States knew nothing about it. That's the official U.S. story. However, the U.S. is committed to defending Israel if Iran retaliates. That's not a good deal for the U.S. In other words, you had nothing to do with this action.
No,
it's retaliation, but you're on the hook to defend the country that did take this action without telling you about it.
This is absurd. So one country takes offensive action against another, breaking every single international norm, international law, and the United States is going to defend the country that did that.
Okay.
What?
Right. Yeah, that's right. And so that, it's not a good deal. It means that you have nothing to do, but you're on the hook. Whereas for Israel, this is really nice. I mean, we just get a blank check. We can take this action, and somebody else has to live with the consequences. That really is like privatizing the benefits and then socializing the losses. And now, since this is such a bad deal, you kind of wonder, well, doesn't Harris have something to say about it? Is there going to be any change in a Harris administration? And it doesn't look like it. and it's so great that the media are not demanding any answers from Harris. Like, what do you think about this? as they tell us.
No, all we're gonna get is like the ladies of the View thing. So, so Trump's a racist, right? Okay, he's a convicted felon, right? Okay, the same tropes over and over again. I need clarification here, everybody. Will Trump and Harris debate? Because I don't know, I can't seem to get the story straight. I mean, Trump said no to ABC. She said no to Fox. Has she changed her position? Does anybody know?
I think that's, as far as I know, that's the current state of play. And that's it is an interesting issue, because of course Trump is absolutely right in saying, hey, we did a deal with Biden. This is a separate campaign. That agreement,
oh yeah, that's fair,
on ABC News, that wasn't with you, so we're not under any obligation to stick to an agreement that was not with you.
I agree.
So, but no, but it's Harris is saying, "Oh, you're breaking the agreement," and then again the media, repeat this nonsense that somehow, Trump is chickening out from this debate. He had already agreed to this. Oh, he's so scared of Harris, which is just so ridiculous, because again, Trump had gone into that with those National Association of Black Journalists. He knew he'd get a frosty reception. He wasn't afraid of that. So the idea that he's terrified of facing Harris is ludicrous. But to answer you, I don't know.
I got a theory.
Okay.
My theory is going to be, if this debate happens, and it doesn't really matter the network. I think it's too overplayed. She's not going to answer any direct question. She's going to have memorized ad hominem attacks on him and say, you want to talk about immigration? We'll talk about, he's a convicted sex offender. What's wrong with, why talk about immigration? This guy, he assaults women. He's a racist. Every single thing she's asking, are you serious? We're going to talk about abortion right now? This man, okay, that's all she will do. All she would do. You know why I think that? Because if you look, I think that you can find it if you look hard enough. When Kamala Harris was on some judiciary committee for the Senate, what do they call the Senate? Call it the Senate Judiciary.
It's the Senate Judiciary Committee. Yeah.
Okay. Watch her performances. They're deceptively good. Why? Because she's in charge. She's in charge. She has the questions in front of her. Somebody writes them. And so she did have a sense of presence, because she was in a position that it was automatically gave her power over the person she was talking to. They weren't equal. No. This is a yes or no question. Okay.
That's right.
No, you're not answering my question. Okay. Chairman, let the record note that the person didn't answer the question, but that's what you can train yourself to do that. You can train yourself to be a Chihuahua attack dog, okay, and look like you know what you're talking about. That's my theory, okay. She said, "Oh, immigration. We're not going to talk about immigration. We're going to talk about this man's history." January 6th.
That's right. I agree. I think that that's why all of those hearings in the House and in the Senate are so unilluminating, because the congressmen and the senators, they control the discourse, so they can just simply say it's a yes or no question, and then the moment the person who's being grilled says, well, it's a little more complicated, it's a yes or no question. Please, you're using my time. It's my time. And it looks like you're getting the better of the debate, because the guy just basically shuts up when you say, "Hey, it's my time, Mr. Chairman. He's using up my time." So yeah, absolutely. No, I think that is how she will debate. And you remember that in that debate, which was moderated by Chris Wallace in 2020. The way they do this is with Trump is like, what do you disown QAnon? And that of course puts you on the hook, because you say, well, either you say I do, To which then the audience thinks, well, he's being asked to disown QAnon. There must be some sort of a link between him and QAnon. Why would he be asked, do you disown QAnon? And I don't even know what the hell QAnon is, but it doesn't
Well,
sound.
see, that would have been my answer.
I think that was
George
Trump's
said to
answer,
me,
but that
"Hey,
didn't do
Peter,
him
do
any
you
good.
disown QAnon?" I said, "George, I don't even know what it is."
No, I don't know what it is. I don't think anyone knows what it is.
But there is Blueanon. I know what Blueanon is. Okay.
but that's the way you do this, because if you ask that question, because it is a when did you stop beating your wife type question, because the very fact that you're being asked this question suggests that QAnon is something bad, and that there's a link between you and QAnon, and you have to disown QAnon. And then, of course, they say, "Oh, well, if and I think Trump said, I don't know what QAnon is." Then maybe some fact checker is going to dig up somewhere where Trump had heard someone say something about QAnon, and he suggested in that that he knew QAnon. It's a little like when he kept saying that woman, the one who claimed that he had raped her in the 90s, he said, "I don't know who this woman is," and then they dug up a photograph where he was shaking her hand at a party. But
yeah, I'm sure Donald Trump has probably shook a million hands in his
well,
life.
that's exactly what he said. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I go in New York. I went to a lot of parties. Who the hell knows who I shake hands with? Somebody sticks a hand into me, and I shake it. I mean, that's what you do. And say, "Oh look, Trump is lying. He knew this woman." I mean, he had no idea who she was. It just showed some woman. And again, it's just a photograph. Who the hell knows that's in the photograph? But he's lying.
Everybody you can use this. I don't care if you footnote me. But Kamala Harris, I've given her my nickname is Word Salad Karen. Okay, because that's who she is. Word Salad Karen.
Word salad. But I think you're right, and I think if they do have that debate, she'll be quite disciplined, and she will do just that. She will just have he's a felon. He's been found guilty. Wow. Well, they're savage.
Hang on, let me check if everything's all right. Good. Keep going. I'll be right back.
That's right. So that she will declare that he is a convicted felon. He has been convicted by a jury of his peers. He has been convicted of 34 felony counts, and he's facing criminal charges, and he's been found guilty of sexual assault, and that's what she would continue to emphasize, and I think it'll going to be a talking point with her, and they're going to go with the she will go with the abortion issue. Why? Because abortion has historically been what was going on?
Don't know. Mystery.
I think they're angry about the tip jar. I mean, they just there's a point that it's like in Great Britain,
Well,
it just bursts in the open. They can't take this tip jar thing anymore.
I think one of them got into the shower and the door closed, and they panicked and pushed their way out. Okay, I think that's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. So no, I was just saying that I think she will talk a great deal about abortion, because historically the abortion issue has worked for Democrats. It's Democrats their best, most effective constituency, sort of next to the African Americans, is single women. For single women, this is a huge issue, and they're going to play to their base. And I think she's going to keep saying Trump is a huge threat to reproductive freedom, which is, again, it's kind of strange, way of putting abortion, reproductive freedom, and it's kind of the opposite of reproductive.
Yeah, it's like Planned Parenthood. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Planned Parenthood. Where's the parenthood part?
No, I don't know. That's what's so disappointing for me about all this, is that these debates never really talk about where people are. Okay. It's all for partisans, and again, more and more alienation that people have about getting by. I mean, depending on what research you want to look at, and it varies, but you have like up to like 40%, 60% of people just have a hard time making it to the end of the month.
Right.
Okay, but where is that on the debate stage? It's almost
Right.
never there. And a strike at Trump here, he talks about tax cuts for rich people.
Yeah. No, that's right. And I think that this was a point that was made by Glenn Greenwald, I think recently. He said that what Trump is doing now is running a very conventional Republican campaign. There's nothing now about Trump that is reminiscent of his kind of bold, almost like a revolutionary approach of 2015, 2016, when he was really just breaking all the shibboleths of the old Republican Party on intervention, on taxation, on business, on the corporations, and that corporations were screwing ordinary people. So these are the issues that he was raising then. He doesn't raise them anymore. When it comes to interventionism, he's playing a kind of a very, very ambiguous games. He thinks he can just go by not really addressing the issues. Oh well, I was successful. I had Iran on the ropes. They were down. Venezuela, I had Venezuela on the ropes. So he's doing, he's essentially doing a very conventional, Mitt Romney type campaign, and I don't think that's enough. And I really think that that's why he's going to get in trouble, not because Harris is such a, is a formidable candidate, or even that the media are going to make her look like a formidable candidate. But if he's going to run, as he seems to be, as a traditional Republican, he's going to lose. Traditional Republicans cannot win elections anymore.
What I essentially agree with that because you have to remember the discipline of Democrats. They are very disciplined as a party. Okay, the word comes down and they fall into place. The Republicans never do that. They're not a disciplined party whatsoever. And to George's point here, now I'm just going to say this as a hypothetical because obviously I can't know, but I wonder what the donor class around Trump is saying, what they want. Right. Okay, and how that's kind of, it's not a compliment to say he's running a Mitt Romney campaign. That's not a compliment.
No, definitely not. But that may well be what the donors want. This is the donors bankrolled Mitt Romney, even though any observer, observing at the time, this is 2012, not that long ago, knew Romney is never going to win the election. I mean, it's not, made him the nominee. He's not going to win the election. There's no way in the world that the country is going to throw out Obama in favor of Romney. I mean, it cannot happen. So doing that, just sort of gliding by with this familiar program of tax cuts, and you're going to maintain, your military expenditures, and you're going to keep bankrolling the FBI, the same FBI that tried to overthrow you, may even have been involved in trying to kill you. The CIA also tried to overthrow you, and you're going to keep bankrolling them. Which, first of all, it doesn't make any sense. But ultimately, people are going to think, well, if you can have tax cuts and you're going to maintain all your spending on that, well, where are you going to make the cuts? Where are you going to how are you going to balance the books or make some effort to reduce the debt? Well, it's obviously going to be social services, the social programs. And then you say, well, we don't want to work for the Republicans. They're going to cut various social programs. So no matter how much we say, oh, no, we're not going to touch Medicare. Don't even worry about it. Don't worry your pretty little heads about it. We're not going to touch it. No one believes it because you're going to have to make the cut somewhere. I mean, if you're not going to slash defense, FBI, CIA, and all the rest of them, then where are you going to make the cuts?
Well, George is absolutely right here. And it's really what we're seeing is a lot of Kabuki theater in all of this here. I agree with George is that the pizzazz that we saw in 2015, 2016 is essentially gone. And I've said here before, and I'll say it again, these personal attacks. She's dumb as a rock and all that. Okay, that's. I'm not impressed. Okay?
No, I agree. It's the same as calling him weird. I mean, it's just it's juvenile.
Well, I think that's a little bit different. I actually find the weird thing very interesting because it's weird. They think it's weird. Okay, I mean, dumb as a rock doesn't land with me, but basically, if you're gonna say it's weird, well, let's talk about what's weird. Okay,
right.
Like men wearing dresses in the White House. I think that's
not weird. That isn't weird. Yeah.
No, I mean, we did a video on this, and we had a lot of fun with it because, if you want to go down the path of what's weird, well, you've opened up a can of worms, okay? But, she's just dumb and all. I don't like that. One thing that, going back to just to touch back on something we said earlier, Kamala Harris is a trained lawyer, okay? How do you learn the law? Rote memory. That's a lot of it. Yep. That is a lot of being what a lawyer is.
Yep.
If she has that skill still, just what George had to say, memorize this card, and don't deviate.
Right.
Don't deviate. Okay.
Right. I know. I agree. I mean, I don't really remember her debate with Mike Pence very clearly. It was not at all an interesting.
No hits, no runs, no errors.
That's right, and everyone got very preoccupied about the fly on Pence's forehead. That was the only thing that people were preoccupied. They couldn't take their eyes off that fly.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Yeah, exactly. But she didn't do badly. I mean, I don't think she scored any points, but she did okay. And I think that she will keep emphasize. I think they will tell her, these are the 3 or 4 things that you're going to have to keep hitting Trump with. Yeah, he's a convicted felon. Yeah, he's a threat to women's reproductive rights. And he's going to be a dictator. He's not really concerned with personal freedom or whatever. Just keep repeating it, and that can work. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, she has a certain discipline. I mean, she was, after all, a courtroom lawyer. She has experience in the courtroom. She wasn't a very good lawyer. But nonetheless, she knows how to do that. So
you don't have to be a good lawyer to be president. Okay.
I don't think so. I kind of agree with that. But I think that if Trump were to do a kind of a bold campaign, sort of re-energize some of the issues that he went with in 2016, I think that would be a different case. But if you're going to try, coast along, being a kind of Romney or Bob Dole, it's just not going to work. I mean, that kind of traditional Republican loses. It cannot win an election anymore. You got to, you got to get out of the box and come up.
Well, I mean, it's something you and I have talked about before. Is because Trump, not as a Republican per se, but Trump ran a very unconventional campaign in 2016, and he pulled it off. Not necessarily as a Republican, okay? I mean, I don't think Trump's a Republican. I never think of him as one, okay?
No, that's it.
But let me finish my point, is that people kind of get into a kind of a doomsday doldrum when they think about national politics. But something George and I have discussed before, if Trump doesn't pull this off, there may not be another Republican president for a generation.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, because if he doesn't pull it off, I think Harris will be a shoo-in for 2008, and that who the hell knows? And the point is, what the Democrats are doing, not unlike what Labour is doing in the UK, which is you change the electorate. That's why they want to do the amnesty. You do the amnesty, you give all the illegals. Who the hell knows how many illegals there are in the UK, in the United States? I think it's much closer to something like 30 million they keep repeating that number of 11 million. They've been saying 11 million for 30 years. It can't still be 11 million. So it's probably maybe 30, 40 million. You legalize them, you've got a natural democratic constituency, and it's going to be very, very difficult to displace the Democrats. And Democrats know this. And the same thing in the UK. I mean, the reason why Labour is taking such a one-sided view on this issue of migration, completely on the side of the migrants against the natural British indigenous population. They see this as their natural constituents. These are the people who are going to vote for us, and the people who are protesting violently or non-violently, they're not going to vote for us. We're not interested in them. So it's real. You engineer an electorate, and then you can be in power.
But that is a recipe. That's a recipe for, in one form or another, civil war.
I think so. I agree with that. I agree. I mean, but again, it goes back. I mean, we talked about this British election where the public protested. I mean, they gave Reform UK, and again, Farage is quite a moderate person. I mean, Farage is no wild-eyed. But he won.
He packages himself very well. But the essence, George is absolutely right. Absolutely.
Yeah. But he won still. He won 14 million votes. That's a lot of votes that he won. And that didn't amount to it amounted to 5 seats. That's it. There's 5 seats. That's all he got. I think it was 14 million. I think he got 14% of the vote. 14% of the vote, and but he won 5 seats. Whereas the Lib Dems, 11% of the votes, they got 71 seats. So again, this leads to the frustration. I mean, I think that election result has also had something to do with this riots, that somehow the result was just so absurd, giving Labour this huge majority when they actually did very poorly. They did an absolutely abysmal performance. Only won the election because the Tory vote just collapsed. People just didn't want to vote for the Tories anymore, and precisely on the issue that immigration, the Tories have failed on the immigration issue, and the culmination of it was the worst possible person as Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. And I think that's what's leading to this frustration. So you said this is a recipe for civil war. Yeah, I think it is. I think both in Britain and the United States, this is where it could well end up.
Well, I mean, it can go further afar in the Western world. I mean, the opening of the Olympic Games in Paris. What a train wreck! I mean, or I should say, tranny wreck. Okay, I mean, it just such an abomination. This was in France. That was state funded and supported.
State funded.
The state. No, this wasn't. Pawned off. A private firm to do all. I mean, no, they were state officials. Went through every single step. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, no, that's right, and that exactly was the state. In other words, French taxpayer money was involved there. So we got some people. We got people coming. We got someone from Memphis, Tennessee. I always like it when we get people from interesting places. So Memphis.
Well, that's flyover country, but I say it in a good way.
That's right.
Good way.
That's right. And then here we have Bustello Maserati. Oh, that's good. He said, take heart, fellow worker students. I'm poor. I tried writing Fetterman Biden. You can't reach our representatives or work with the Constitution. It's all a farce. Yeah, well, I think so. But again, it's so interesting that we kind of have these elections, and the results really have nothing to do with what people want done, what people accomplish. You're getting these representatives. What do they have to do with anything that people actually desire?
This was dealt with in Rome during the Roman Empire. when the elites no longer had any solutions.
Right.
They had bread and circuses.
Yeah, I think so.
But we got the short end of the stick in the modern West. We don't get the bread. We get the circuses. and that's, look, it's true. I mean, when politics is political theater, it's not supposed to solve any problems. Right. Oh, come on, okay? It's my tribe against your tribe, okay? Right. And it's just all it is a psychodrama. That's all how they present politics, is a psychodrama. Right-wing people, Marxists, that's all it is. And all it does is it's supposed to make you angry. But the problem is that you're going to get angry enough that you're going to get angry against their presentation. Because, because how much longer do you want us to be willing idiots in your psychodrama? Because at the end of the day, if it's, the Tories or the Labor, the people that are pulling the strings, they go out to dinner at night, okay?
Yeah, no, that's right. So, they go from one fiasco to another, and then they get reelected. And that's the thing. So, you got, Blair, it's now, he's gone, but, he led Britain completely unnecessarily into that war in Iraq. But he got reelected, and then he got reelected again. And then here we had all this nonsense with COVID. What they did, they destroyed economies. They threw people out of work. They destroyed businesses on absolute nonsense. And it was obvious it was nonsense, but they're all going on, continued thing. What happened to COVID? It's like it just disappeared. What happened to that virus? It's
as a friend of mine, like, you can put any topic in you want, but we'll use COVID as we talk.
Yeah, that's right.
COVID was the biggest story. Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't. Where did that virus go?
When Biden entered the White House, essentially it was over.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and then you get reelected, and that's the thing. You just keep getting reelected. So Biden, Harris, and then Starmer. Keep getting elected and reelected. So. You do have to sort of wonder. The case of Fetterman is just an extreme example. The guy was just simply not even functional, and and he just gets.
Does everybody remember when he came out on the debate stage? Good night. And he still beat that Oz guy.
That's
such an odious candidate. Odious.
Yes.
Hold your nose listening to that guy.
Yes.
Used car salesmen have more integrity than that
that's
guy.
Right. Yes. What do you think that this Pennsylvania governor, just Josh Shapiro? You think he's going to be the Harris's VP pick?
Every indication there. I'm not really paying too much attention. It's hard for me. Because there is no substance to the Harris campaign, it's hard for me to focus my attention on it. What I do look at is the rollout. That's what kind of fascinates me. Okay. Oh, she never was the border czar. It's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh, yeah. George W. Bush didn't start the war in Iraq.
No.
Joe Biden is considered the greatest president in American history. They say this, what they say is, open your mouth, I'm going to spit into it. Okay.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, because Kamala said the other day, he belongs on Mount Rushmore. And as she said this, you remember Trump, this is the kind of thing Trump would say about himself. Yeah, I think I should be on Mount Rushmore, but that's just part and parcel of who Trump is. It's like, it's a joke.
So many, we've said it before, and I don't know if it rings true with our viewers here, but there's a Trump dialect. It's just a certain way of talking. And we know the hyperbole, and I know he says, "I'm your favorite president." It's just no one else has been able to pull that off. But when someone says, Joe Biden should be on Mount Rushmore, that just It's just so laughable, okay? But when Trump says, "Yeah, I should be up there," we all know what he means by
Yes,
that. Okay,
that's
I
right.
don't know if
Yeah,
that
that's
makes
right.
any sense to you guys, but I mean, every time we hire only the best people. That's kind of weird. Trumpisms. They're Trumpisms.
That's right.
But
That's right.
but I may be mistaken, but they mostly come from the right place. Others,
Right.
it comes from the wrong place.
Yeah, exactly right. It's that's but that's it. I mean that's who he was. I mean, ever since I first laid eyes on Trump, you knew that this is who he is. I mean, it's like his claims, "I saved New York City." I mean, he started in the early '80s. He was already claiming that he had saved New York City. That's who Trump has always been. So it's I belong on Mount Rushmore. But in the case of a Pelosi, I think this is the kind of Democratic Party talking point. They want to make it clear that somehow Biden was a great president. He was a historic presidency. So kind of. But
Well, I mean, what they need to do is, in one of Nancy's mansions, they need to hire a sculptor of a what is it, a binary, multicultural, biracial thug with a sword stabbing Trump in the back, Brutus type. That's what they did. So he deserves them to be on Mount Rushmore, even though we assassinated him. Okay, yeah.
But it's very interesting. Even the assassination attempt, which is that first of all, it's been completely forgotten. Boom, no one talks about it. It's just
surprise.
That's right. And there was an article in Politico, where else, suggesting that somehow using the assassination against Trump, that he could use this assassination attempt in order to introduce a fascist dictatorship into the United States. That's how he's going to use this assassination attempt. Somehow you've managed to turn it around that this is somehow Trump kind of manufactured this himself.
The Reichstag fire, right?
Exactly, the Reichstag. And then Mussolini, there was an assassination attempt on Mussolini, so you can then go, and then he can do it, do what Mussolini did. So even this, you somehow turn it around and make this something negative about
Trump.
Well,
I mean, on that point, I would surmise is that for Trump supporters, the assassination attempt hasn't been forgotten, but in the mainstream media.
But that's right. But the mainstream media, and then you had the extraordinary spectacle of the FBI director coming along and saying, "Well, that may have been a bullet that hit him, or it may have been a piece of glass," and then within the FBI, of course, issued a correction within 24 hours, saying, "No, it was a bullet." But this is the FBI director. When you come along and say something so nonsensical, this isn't just simply some guy in a bar saying it. Well, I don't know. Well, maybe a bullet, maybe
if Trump is reelected and inaugurated, which is a big if at this point, okay, he should fire Christopher Wray.
Yes, that's right. Awful again, and I mean, and Trump, you have to say, he signed off on this large FBI. Yeah, give them a new building. Give them a new building. Said, they deserve a new building. They don't deserve anything. They deserve to, dismantle, at the very least, kicked out of Washington. Set up office somewhere else. Somewhere in the suburbs. The idea that you giving them money in order to have a new building, it's just, it's like these are the people who tried to destroy you. So that's Anyway, we have another question from 60 Cents, who says, "Dear George and Peter, according to a Press TV report citing Iran's investigation, the assassination of Hamas's political bureau leader was done by an explosive projectile with about 7 kilos of TNT and not a previously planted explosive. I saw that story, and I obviously we don't know which one it is, but neither, to be honest, reflects particularly well on Iran's intelligence services.
Right.
So whether it's an explosive planted in this guest house that he stays in regularly, or it's a projectile launched within Iran, it still doesn't look good for Iran to allow this to happen on its soil.
I agree with George. It doesn't really matter how it was done. The fact that it was done within Iran is the story.
Yeah. That's right. And
that's the first time, too.
Yeah, exactly. I guess we'll know within a few hours whether whether Iran will react. I mean, I think Netanyahu knew that he's putting Iran into a very difficult position. I mean, there are just no good options for Iran. If it sits on its hands, it doesn't look good. If it just does a kind of theatrical attack, like as it did in April, that doesn't look good. If it launches a serious attack on Israel, then that could well provoke a war, which is certainly not good for Iran or for anyone. So there are no good options for Iran.
Well, I see a question here. You guys would build more of an audience if you didn't fall so easily into partisanship. I think George and I have a lot of venom for anyone in the establishment. I mean, we're an equal opportunity offender.
I think so. We trashed Republicans today, and we trashed Democrats. I mean,
we trashed Labor, we trashed Tories.
Exactly, we trashed Labor. I mean, and we even trashed Nigel Farage. I don't know whom we've said good things. We only say good things about people who are already dead. Because we say good things about the dead. We say good things about Nixon. We say I don't know.
Good things about Maggie Thatcher.
Exactly, but we never. I don't know anyone currently in political life that we consistently say good things about. I mean, we vaguely approve of Rand Paul, but only vaguely. I mean, we've never exactly been fulsome in our.
I've been very complimentary to J.D. Vance, but that was before he got into politics.
Okay. Yes, that's true. Yes, that's right. Before, that's right. We had a very nice donation from DJ 53144, who said Buddy was imitating how Kamala will sound during the debate. So that's and I think
well,
so. Buddy,
please don't insult my dog. Okay.
Well, no, he said Buddy was imitating. I mean, he was just, he was doing it for purposes of entertainment. He said, "Yeah, this is this will be Kamala during the debate." But
I mean, in all fairness, I'd like to hear more from her so we can critique it, but we don't hear much.
That's right. Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the plan. We just say as little as possible. And again, time is marching on. I mean, it's already August the 5th, which means that there's only 3 months left. I think the election is on November the 5th, so there's 3 months left. And each day that goes by, and all she gets is the obsequious articles in the mainstream media, and she doesn't have to address any issues. Doesn't have to hold a news conference. Doesn't have to tell us what she would do about Ukraine or Gaza or anything else. That's a good day for her.
I see a comment here from Mr. Boston here. Ran as a joke compared to Ron. Well, there's a real quick story. It was a few years back, and Ron Paul was on my program, and we had another guest. We usually have 3, but because we had Ron Paul on, I wanted to have more time with him. But the second guest we were using Zoom and it didn't work. So I was left with Ron Paul. And I prepared an entire program for 2 guests, and like within 1 minute, they said, Peter, we only have Ron Paul. We have to turn this into an interview. And so I turned it into just on the fly. It was one of the greatest experiences of my broadcasting life. It's such a great guest to have on. And I remember asking him, because this is, I think it was right before the 2016 election or right after it. And I asked him, would he consider being Secretary of State, which the comments on YouTube before I was banned, my program was just out. It was so popular. I was so happy. And Daniel McAdams obviously works with Ron Paul. He's a very good friend of the Gaggle and of Crosstalk.
Yes. Yeah. No. That's right. Ron Paul was always very entertaining. I don't think
I'm not a libertarian though. Okay, I'm not a libertarian.
No, that's right. And I don't think he was a very effective political candidate. I think that he ran, I think 2008, 2012, and while I think he garnered some support, he just wasn't a particularly effective candidate. He was never going to win the party nomination.
He's too much of a nice guy. Sorry.
Yeah,
but he had a following. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he had a following.
All you have to do is mention Ron Paul and people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. But what they liked about him was the foreign policy, and that was I think an early indication the Republicans really were turning against that whole standard GOP neocon foreign policy. That's what they responded to with Ron Paul. But then he would start talking about this neo-Austrian economics, and then you kind of lost the audience. They have no idea what that is, but they don't particularly like it. But he's a man of principle. He's not going to make any compromises. And then he would start going on and on about Austrian economics.
Watch the Liberty Report. Those guys, Daniel McAdams as his co-host. Good program. Very, very good.
Yes. But that's and I think that's why.
But it's almost always foreign policy. Yeah.
Yes. No. Exactly. That was good. But that's where. But he in a way blazed the trail for Trump. Yes. I think Trump saw the successes that Ron Paul enjoyed, and he took that over. But he was smart. Trump was smart enough not to go down the path of the Austrian economics. Ludwig von Mises? That's all of it. Anyway, Peter, I think we've discussed the world. I think there's a lot going on, and I think you're going to on holiday quite shortly.
Yes, next time you see me, fingers crossed, there may be palm trees behind me, okay? Or I'll just be in an air-conditioned room, okay? I don't know. I'll do my best, okay? Depends how strong the Wi-Fi is, okay? But full steam ahead. I don't think there'll be any interruption. I'll be in the same time zone, so we'll be doing it at the same time, so.
And just one other question, Peter. What's the YouTube situation? Are you having problems with YouTube or not, or is that resolved?
Oh, I'm glad everybody asked that. That's a real bone of contention here right now, and people are blaming YouTube. It's not YouTube. It's the Russian government that's throttling it because they are in a dispute with YouTube about content on the platform. I'm not a libertarian, but I'm a free speech advocate. I'm very disappointed that the government is throttling it because of content. People are going to see what they're going to see. They're going to decide what they're going to decide. This started about 10 days, 2 weeks ago. So I'm using right now my Mac computer, and I can't watch YouTube at all on it. And then I started watching YouTube on my iPad, and it was sketchy, but I get through an hour program in about an hour and 20 minutes. So you can see the interruptions, and that doesn't work now. Now I have to do it exclusively on my telephone, which I don't like watching things on my telephone. Okay, so that's where.
So if you watch it on the telephone, then you can do it normally. There's no problems if it's on the phone.
On the telephone is normal, absolutely no problem. Okay.
Why is it okay?
Well, I don't know. I'm not technically knowledgeable enough why it works better on different platform. I don't know why it works better on my phone than on my computer, but that's the reality. I'm hoping that these issues will be resolved and that we'll go back to normal. But I'm glad people asked the question because, ever since the start of this part of the conflict in Ukraine, this is one issue that has really galvanized a lot of people. Okay, it's like YouTube, and this is YouTube Russia. Okay, this is a subsidiary of YouTube. Okay, so it's a lot more complicated than what people are saying. It's not not because of sanctions. Okay, it's a legal dispute that the Russian government has with YouTube Russia.
Yeah. Right. Now
it's annoying, a lot.
But what is the legal status of YouTube Russia?
I don't know. I don't know. I just know that it's an entity here. Okay,
right.
And that there's been complaints by a ministry about the content that is being. I mean, there's a lot of you can have a Russian language page. You can do it from New York, and it ends up in YouTube Russia. I mean, and these are quote unquote dissidents and bots and disinformation people and all of that, and it gets on there. Okay.
Right.
I don't see why the government should be particularly interested in lunatic ideas. Okay, everyone can look around and see what the reality is, and then there's some joker in London or New York saying, people are eating rats in the streets or something like that, which is obviously absurd. So because of my stance on free speech, I don't think that it is necessary to go down this path.
No, I agree. I agree. But is YouTube Russia affiliated with YouTube, or is it a separate entity?
As far as I understand, yes.
It is affiliated. Okay.
It's not a standalone, not as far as I understand that. I don't know the legal intricacies of the ownership of YouTube Russia. Okay, I'm sorry, I don't. I should, but
yeah. All right, Peter. Have a great time in Sochi. We'll continue with the Gaggle, and we'll say goodbye and let you depart. And we'll say goodbye to those two savage hounds who make life so difficult. So thank you, everybody who has joined us. Thank you for all your comments and your questions. And, above all, thank you to those who have contributed financially, because, we don't care about money, but Buddy does. So that's the problem. Anyway, remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.